Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. We'll begin in 2 minutes. On trust, understanding revocable trusts. Panel one.
This is where we're going, guys. This is what we need. The revocable trust is a pass-through trust. So think of it as a highway or a passageway from the public into the private. This is the type of trust we need to set up. We can only get one, only one. Everything else has to be irrevocable or a different type of a trust called an express trust. But we do get one irrevocable trust. It is definitely under our full given name of our birth certificate. And it definitely has got to say revocable in it. And it definitely has to say trust in it. Now, whatever other words you want to put into the title, that's up to you. So remember, I can't tell you what to put in your titles. Only you can decide what to put in your titles. And it all deals with your banks too, because some banks want a lot in the title. They want dates when it was established. They want trustees and stuff like this. So every time you guys do something, you literally have got to go into your own state and to your own banking system and decide and see how they have things set up.
All right, and here we go. Panel 2. Revocable trust definition. Revocable trust accounts are testamentary deposit accounts that are owned by one or more people expressing their interest to pass funds to their beneficiaries after they die. This type of trust account can be revoked, terminated, or amended at any time by the owners of the trust. One right the owners have is the right to change their beneficiaries and the allocation of funds distributed to the beneficiaries after they pass.
Okay, so what I was saying, this is a pass-through trust. We will have a revocable trust, and this is the trust we're going to be using to receive our funds from the public side, pass it into the private side, and in this trust, we're going to be able to use it to distribute to our irrevocable trust, or we'll be able to distribute it to our settlers. We can distribute to our beneficiaries. We can distribute it to a lot of places. This is where we're going to be storing our credits, because if we're paying from this side of the private, we're paying in credits. If we're paying from the other side, we're paying in debt. So this is a really important trust. It's one of the first trusts I recommend everybody set up, is the revocable trust. After you have this set up, then it's easier for you to understand how it works to go and write your irrevocable trust. And remember, this trust can be modified anytime you want. Irrevocable trusts are like almost set in stone. It's harder to modify them.
Absolutely. So, yeah, remember, for you revocable and irrevocable, make sure you have it correct. Panel 3. Informal revocable trusts. An informal revocable trust is often called a payable on death or POD trust. An ITF is an informal trust account. And the ATF is written in trust to mean as trustee for. A Totten trust is a bank account in the depositor's name as trustee for a named beneficiary. When an account owner signs an agreement as part of the signature card, the bank will create an ITF, ATF, or Totten trust account. This transfers the funds into the account for one or more named beneficiaries when the owner passes.
Okay, so these terminologies are literally terminologies from the bank. This is how they set up your trust accounts, guys. So depending on how you write the title of your trust is what this does. Like the POD, it's payable on death. So a lot of people will set it up. And as soon as you die, your revocable trust becomes an irrevocable trust. Your trustee, your co-trustee who you assign to be your trustee after death will take over, and they will disperse the funds inside of your account. We do have informal trust accounts. This is a different type of a trust. It's still a revocable trust, but it's set up differently, and it's identified differently through the banks. And remember, when we're setting up our trust, we also do honestly have insurance. The FDA has insurance on these. So if we have large sums of money in our trust, we will be getting insurance policies on our trust. So this is really important. You can put one on, you don't have to put one on, but they're really strict at the bank on some of the signature cards. So before you do anything, get a paper from your bank or talk to somebody from your bank and decide how you want to set this up. If you want to do a POD, if you want to do a TTF, an ATF, a totem, figure it out before you start going in and creating new bank accounts.
Okay, moving on to panel 4. Formal revocable trust. The formal revocable trusts aka living or family trust, are a written agreement that is created for estate planning purposes. The owner controls the deposits and other assets in the trust during their lifetime. Upon the owner's death, the funds are paid to one or more beneficiaries. After this type of trust becomes irrevocable, this type of trust agreement refers to the owner of the trust as the grantor, settlor, trustor, maker, or donor.
So here we go. We need to have this revocable trust. This is our pastor again. And this is where we're going to be passing our money into our irrevocable trust, where we're going to put all of our major assets into that. Our major assets are our property, our stocks, our bonds, our gold certificates, things like this. Those will be locked away in our irrevocable trust, and the assets will sit in there. And our revocable trust, we are going to use this as a way to bring our money in and a way to distribute our money through our trust. It's not money laundering, you guys, because it has nothing to do with money laundering. When you think about it, you're bringing your money in and you're moving it to your other trust. A lot of people would say, well, is that illegal? No, because what we're doing is we have to have a way to literally bring our money out of the public and bring it into the private. That gives us access to the money that we can move into the trust where it belongs. So if we have a irrevocable trust, this trust is tied to it. It's tied. So everything is like a line that goes to things. So it's a tie or a passageway or a roadway. So because we have this trust, we can take, if we did an investment and we cashed out $1 million worth of bonds, the money would be deposited in this account because that's the only account that can be deposited in. And from here, we would use our trust documents. It all has to be documented. We would use our trust documents to move the money into our irrevocable trust where it would stay in our irrevocable trust.
Okay. Moving on, panel 5, trust relationships. The title of a revocable trust account must reflect that upon the revocable trust owner's death, the account's funds shall belong to one or more beneficiaries. Excuse me. In an informal revocable trust, the titling requirement can be expressed as in trust for, or as trustee for, or as payable on death to. For a formal revocable trust, the accounts can be titled in the name of the trust or by simply having the word trust in the title.
So when we're setting these up, we always will have a signature card. And whoever is going to be our co-trustee that's going to come in and take over the trust after we're dead, we do have to have a letter with the bank with their signature on it. And then, like I said, your name is your name. You have to decide how you want to set up the title of your trust. Whatever you do, you can set it up many different ways. And depending on the way you choose to set it up will depend on how the bank runs it. So this is very important.
Okay, there you go. Panel 6. Beneficiaries must be identified in the IDI records. IDI records, integrated data infrastructure. In an informal revocable trust account, it is necessary that the beneficiaries on your account must be in the IDI's account records. The names of your beneficiaries do not need to be reflected in your account name. The names must appear on the signature card or account agreement. This requirement does not apply to formal living trust accounts when the beneficiaries are identified in the trust agreement.
So there's several ways that you can identify your beneficiaries. You can identify them inside your trust agreement, and they don't need to be in the IDI. The IDI is a database. It's an international database that has your name, your number, your social security number. It's just the identification that they've set up. It's like a master file, okay? So
There you go. Okay. Now that was a
yeah,
key relative term there. The
master
master file,
yeah.
individual master file. So if you hear IMF, it's not the International Monetary Fund. It's individual master file. So that's kind of what she's talking about right here, which is the data matching software that's approved that the government has had since 2013.
Right. So as soon as you're 18, you can be registered in it. So this is basically, they just look into the master file, make sure that you are identified in the master file, your name and your signatures on their signatory card at the bank, and boom, they can release the trust to you. This is really important, you guys, because I mean, seriously, there's a lot of people who are older who literally have gone out to attorneys and asked attorneys to help set up their trust. They take this to the bank, and the bank puts an account together. Next thing you know, because every trust needs to be funded, and usually if you're going to set it up for the first time, banks will ask for $100 to fund your trust. Okay, that's not a big deal. But some of these other people are having an extreme amount of problems to when they're dead. Their families come in with the trust, and they're not on any of the banks. They're not in any of the records. So if you want to do a trust and you need your family or somebody to come in and handle it afterwards, all of this has to be registered at the bank. The bank will not do anything if you do not register this at the bank. Even if it's a small trust and it's only $5,000, you're going to have to go through probate, and you're going to have to pay the probate costs. End of story. So set it up correctly with the bank, with the signature cards, with the identifications, and it's not that difficult. People I've helped set up the trust, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour max. You know, bring in the documents and set it up correctly.
Yep. All right. So IDI, master file. Panel 7, beneficiaries must be eligible. An eligible beneficiary must be one of the following. Number 1, a natural person or human being. Number 2, a charitable organization. Number 3, a nonprofit entity. In some trust, grantors designate beneficiaries that are not eligible. These beneficiaries fall under ineligible or invalid status. An ineligible beneficiary does not meet the requirements of an eligible beneficiary, but is still able to legally receive the bequest under state law. And check your local state laws to determine whether or not that is a valid statement incorporated towards your own estate or whatever you're dealing with. And
so guys, look, what is our status? What is our standing? Who are we? Are we a state national? Are we a sovereign individual? Are we this? Are we that? Are we something else? No, trust law tells us who we are. We are, you guys, a natural person. That's it. That's our title. That's our name. We're a natural person. And believe it or not, a natural person has more benefits and more rights than any of this other stuff out there right at the moment. Okay? Plain and simple. And so when they're talking about ineligible, an ineligible person could actually be somebody leaving something to their dog or their cat or their, you know, boa constrictor or something. And when they do something like that, they literally have to assign a guardian. And the guardian, you know, they would have to say, I'm going to leave, you know, $10,000 for my boa. So somebody will take care of my boa. This is going to be Floyd, I'm going to leave you my boa and I'm going to leave you $10,000 so you can take care of my boa and make sure that he's doing well. And when my boa passes, whatever's left is yours. So this is what's called an ineligible person, but you have to have some type of an eligibility to go along with it so that somebody can take care of it to handle the money.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I don't have a boa.
You don't.
No, there is no snakes on our island, none whatsoever. But we do have a lot of lizards. We have a lot of geckos.
A lot of geckos. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Nope. All right, moving on. Panel 8. Relax in my duties. Invalid beneficiaries. A fictional person. Any object or entity that does not meet the requirements of an eligible beneficiary and would not be eligible to receive the bequest under state law when the owner dies. Many people leave their money to their dogs or cats. This is not possible in these types of trusts. We must leave our funds to a natural person, or we could leave the money to a natural person with the instructions that the funds be used to take care of the animal until it dies.
This is what I got done saying just a few minutes ago. We cannot use fictitious entities. We cannot use pieces of paper. So it has to be a natural person. Once you put it in your trust and it's actually a natural person, you know, living, breathing, you know, talking, speaking person, then we're fine. But if it is not, and it's a four-legged animal, our horse, our dog, whatever, then we do need somebody to take care of it because they are dependent on us. So it's the same thing. You would have to make sure you had a dependency to take care of, or a person to take care of your dependencies of your animals.
Correct. Panel 9. Who are primary beneficiaries? Who is the primary unique beneficiaries of an account upon the death of the owner? A beneficiary unique beneficiary is the person entitled to an interest in the trust deposits when the owner dies. Okay, I'm going to say that again. A primary unique beneficiary is the person entitled to an interest in the trust deposits when the owner dies. Boy, that's a tongue twister. At times, a trust agreement. At times, a
Is
trust
that a
agreement.
mouthful?
Yeah, a primary unique beneficiary. Yeah, to get that out. At times, a trust agreement will provide that if a primary beneficiary predeceases the owner, the deceased beneficiary's shares will pass to an alternative or contingent beneficiary. In a formal revocable trust, the naming of a specific person is preferable. It is not required, provided the description is sufficient to determine the person who receives the benefits.
So the whole thing is the bank does not have to know who the beneficiaries are, but it has to be laid out inside your will. It has to be laid out. And if there's co-trustees, they have to be laid out inside the signature card. Depending on some banks, they will ask who the beneficiaries are to get signatures and stuff like this. You don't have to give that. All you have to do is make sure that the paperwork inside of your trust is set up correctly and it lays out all the rules, regulations, and everything else of the trust. So when you're gone, you can get into the bank account or whatever to distribute the funds.
Okay. Panel 10. Trust accounts properly titled. In a revocable trust, the owner's title must be indicated at the IDI and that the account is held pursuant to a trust relationship. In a formal revocable trust account, we must use the terms living trust, family trust, or any other words that associate the account with a trust. In an informal trust, we use the descriptions in our trust such as POD, ITF, and even ATF, which we covered in an earlier panel. For informal revocable trust accounts, the account title will include information contained in the IDI's electronic deposit account records.
So here we go. Most people who own bank accounts, voter registrations, birth certificates, you know, all this stuff, you signed your name, you'll be in the IDI. So that's not a big deal, but we just got to make sure that when you are in there and you are working with the bank, that your title inside the IDI or your account inside the IDI reflects what your trust says, and it reflects the title of your trust. And in these type of titles, your name is very important. Now, an irrevocable trust can be any title you want. It could be, you know, Harry Potter's imaginary revocable trust, created by whoever wants to create it. We can name it, you know, the Living Stars, whoever you want. That's a revocable trust. Irrevocable has got to be your name. It has to be your title, your legal title.
Okay. Panel 11. Informal revocable trust account, POD. Informal revocable trusts are commonly known as POD, ITF, or Totten trust accounts. These informal trusts are created when a deposit account owner indicates in the account title that upon the depositor's death, the deposits are to be payable to one or more beneficiaries. Informal revocable trust accounts are governed solely by the terms indicated in the IDI records, the account agreement, and applicable state law.
So you guys, this is all dealing with banking. Okay, so this is dealing with how you're going to set up your accounts, how you're going to name your accounts, and how your accounts are going to run. So just understand the rules of banking when you're setting up your revocable trust. Because if you're using the revocable trust to pass through money, which it's what it's for, and you're a broker or a real estate agent and you're getting large sums of money, property, or whatever, then you better set it up correctly, because you're gonna need insurance on it. And this is the most important part.
There you go. All right, moving on to panel 12. Testamentary nature. The testamentary nature of a revocable trust account must be manifested in the title of the account. For informal revocable trust accounts, this requirement is often satisfied by using commonly accepted terms such as, but not limited to, in trust for, or as trust for, or payable on death to, or any acronym thereof. Example given, ITF or ATF or POD. The title of a revocable trust account is expressly defined to include the electronic deposit account records of the IDI.
Okay, we did go over this in our class, our last class, our fourth class. This is creating titles of trust. And you know, sometimes banks want you to have your full given name, or if it's two people, both your name is, you know, John and Linda Doe, Revocable Living Trust. Then it'll have a date, you know, that it was created, and then it will have the trustee's name on it, and then it will have something else identifying beneficiaries and whatever. And by the time you're done, these titles are astronomically huge. And you cannot have titles like that on checking accounts or, you know, other accounts. So they do have ways to abbreviate some of these titles to make it easier for people to write the titles of their trust. So that just, it's another thing. Check with your banks, check with your state, check with, you know, trust laws. That's the most important thing. Every state is different. Every bank requires different things. And usually banks are uniform across the states. So just check to see what it says before you go in and, you know, name your trust. And then afterwards, you find out that your trust name is not, you know, falling into the criteria it should fall into. So if something happened to you, the co-trustee would not be able to get into the account without going through probate.
Okay. And that's the important thing, is to stay out of probate, because when you're in there, that's a year minimum automatically.
Mostly 4,
Yeah.
especially if you have a big account.
Formal revocable trust accounts. Formal revocable trusts, also known as living or family trusts, are created and governed by the terms of a separate revocable trust agreement, usually drafted by an attorney for estate planning purposes. The owner of a formal revocable trust agreement retains the right to control the deposits and other assets of the trust during his or her lifetime, and also reserves the right to amend or revoke the trust. Upon the owner's death, the trust deposits and other trust assets are distributed to one or more beneficiaries identified in the trust.
So here, you know, there's a lot of people that run over to an attorney and ask an attorney to do this for them. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. And, you know, I had to deal with my grandmothers and my grandfathers and my dads. And I see the good and I see the bad about what these attorneys do with these living estates, this, that, and everything else. Because literally, they're going to give you a sheet of maybe 10 or 15 pages. And inside those pages is going to tell you what needs to be done. And you know what? Nobody reads those pages. And when they're dead, it's too late, because now it's all going to probate because they didn't get all the stuff done. If you do it yourself, you're guaranteed to make all the steps happen. And it's not that hard. It's really not that difficult to do it yourself.
You just have to do some reading, some research, and invest some time and energy, just like everybody does.
A little bit of due diligence.
Yeah. Panel 14, titling of accounts. For formal revocable trust accounts, satisfying the requirement that the revocable trust account title reflect the testamentary intent of the owner can easily be met by using a term such as living trust, family trust, or revocable trust, or trust in the account title. Often there may be supplemental language in the title, including the names of trustees and descriptive language such as the date the trust was created.
We're just, you know, all of this, it just reinforces it day after day. So basically, I get so many questions. Well, I want my trust title to be this. And I said, go for it. Well, what should it be? And I said, I'm not going to tell you. It's not my trust. So you guys are asking me to approve your trust titles. I can't do it. They're not mine. Everybody has free will. Everybody has free choice. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own choice of what they want to see their title of the trust be. So choose it, but choose wisely.
All right. All right. Panel 15. Maintaining copies of the trust agreement at the IDI. While the titling of an account in the name of a formal revocable trust is acceptable for deposit insurance purposes, the IDI is not mandated to retain a copy of the trust agreement. Some IDIs may maintain copies of certain pages or copies of the entire agreement. That is within the purview of the IDI, which may retain copies for its own business purposes.
So basically, they're really not supposed to take anything of your trust. That's why you have what's called a certification of trust, or it's a title of trust. And these are what you are going to be giving to the bank. Now, when you set up trust accounts, they're not supposed to keep these documents. They're only supposed to use the documents to create your account. They're supposed to return these documents to you. So be wise and be careful, and don't get banks to say you have to show me your whole entire trust and I have to copy it for the IDI, because it's not the truth. It's not. Your trusts are private, And what you write inside of it is your privacy. It has nothing to do with setting up your bank accounts. And you tell them, no, I understand a little bit more about trust law and a little bit more about banking law. And no, I am not going to give you all of my whole trust so you can make photocopies of it, know what I'm doing, just for the idea. You can have my trust certificate. And it lays out what it says and what it needs to say. And just leave it at that, guys.
All right. All right. Panel 16. Identifying the trust owners. It is the entitlement created between the revocable trust owners and the beneficiaries that forms the basis for calculating deposit insurance coverage for a revocable trust account. So let me repeat that one. It is the entitlement created between the revocable trust owners and beneficiaries that forms the basis for calculating deposit insurance coverage for a revocable trust account. Formal revocable trusts commonly have either one or two owners who are identified in the trust agreement as the settlers, trusters, grantors, donors, makers, or creators. This designation usually is specified on the first page of the trust agreement. Revocable trusts listing three or more owners should be reviewed carefully to ensure that each named owner is in fact an actual owner of trust assets.
This is all set up in your documentation when you're first writing your trust. Whatever you do, the first thing that you always should do is start with the trust agreement. Create your trust agreement. Understand what you want. Now, remember, if we write something today in our trust and 6 months down the road, we're no longer working at this company, we're no longer, being able to fund our trust with our paychecks or whatever. That's why it's called revocable. That means we can amend our trust and we write amendments for our trust. So this is kind of it's just an easy way to go through everything. So we have to identify our trust first. And once we identify our trust, it makes it super easy to write our trust certificates or our certification of trust that we will be using with everybody to prove we have a trust.
Yeah. All right, moving on to panel 17. Life estate beneficiaries. Some formal revocable trusts provide that a beneficiary has the right to receive income from the trust or to use trust assets during the beneficiary's lifetime, known as life estate interest. And after the life estate beneficiary dies, other beneficiaries are to share the remaining trust assets. For cases in which the number of beneficiaries is 6 or more, so that a specific amount of the funds in the revocable trust accounts must be allocated to each of the various beneficiaries.
So this is just all information that, depending on how large your trust is, how many beneficiaries you have, how many dependents or offspring you have, how many people you want to put in it. It's just explaining to you. So basically, if you have a child and you're very well off and your child is going to be turning 12 or 13 years old, you can set it up in this, that your child will get a set allowance every month, a $500 allowance. Or if you were divorced and you wanted to make sure your child was well taken care of and you wanted to not to get all this, alimony crap or whatever, you can, bequeath every month to your child, $800 or $1,000. And that should take care of, food, clothing, expenses and stuff like that for your child. So there is a possibility you can do that too.
Okay. Little housekeeping. And last but not least, kids, here we go. The conclusion. Before we go to the bank to open our trust account, it is important to understand the different types of trust accounts. The banks are there to help us, but if we come prepared, it makes it so much easier to open our account. We need to learn a bit more about trust so we can sit down and write our trust. Trusts are just our will scribed on paper that tell our loved ones our wishes after we pass.
It's a nice way to say goodbye. You know, believe it or not, there's schedules in trust, and Schedule A is always what our assets are. It's always what, you know, we're worth. Schedule B can be notes. It can be personal property. Because you guys, in our trust, when we're setting it up, we do not have to say, I am going to give all my clothes to charity, because, all right, we don't need to do that. But there's a lot of people who want to do that. A lot of people want to know that their doll collection that they've had for over 50 years is going to go to little Judy, who's only 5 years old, and little Judy is going to cherish this doll collection. So they literally, you know, put this in there. But those will go in different schedules in the trust. They won't be in your first schedule. That's for sure. You don't put, you know, put it this way. If we can sell it at a garage sale, it doesn't go in Schedule A. If we cannot sell it at a garage sale and we need a title, then it goes in Schedule A. If we can sell it at a garage sale or anything like that, it goes in Schedule B. So just keep rule of thumb. If we can sell it easily, or somebody can take it and sell it within 5 minutes, it goes in Schedule B. If you have to sign papers and you have to sign titles and you have to transfer ownership, then it goes in Schedule A. Simple as can be.
Here you tell it. Just like that.
It's the way it goes.
Yeah, but see, when you express it like that and they hear this and they think, oh, it's that easy.
Guys, keep it simple. Use KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Seriously, many people are trying to make this so much harder than you really have to make it. It is not that difficult. What happens if you just sit down and you write all of your will on a piece of paper, and you decide at this time you're going to do certain things? And there's a lot of people who create living wills. They don't go to a lawyer. They just sit down at their computer because they don't have huge estates. They have just, you know, simple things that they want to leave people. They have a little small savings account, and they just sit down and do it. That's all a trust is. A trust is the same thing as a will, except we can use it a little bit differently than a will. With a will, we cannot open up a bank account using our will to transfer money back and forth. So we put our will into a trust, and that gives us the access to, you know, transfer our assets from out in the public into the private, and then hold them in a safe. And our safe is our irrevocable trust. That's like our safe.
Thank you for hanging around after the show. I want to present to you Tailor Made Trust, featuring LeFlore's Trust Series, available at tailormadetrust.com, as well as the fearlessfloydshow.com store. Here are a handful of the available trusts that can be built, custom tailored to your needs and desires. 25 different trusts, plus the DNA trust addendum. And as always, LeFlore's classic trusts and ancillary classes. and also Ann's books on trust and specialty trust, which I also co-authored. If you'd like to get a class, a book, or have a trust custom built for you, always available at the fearlessfloydshow.com store. And I'll see you in the next show. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.